Okay, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to a new episode of the Science Applied series. So this video is going to cover the second push workout for the week. So we'll be hitting the chest, shoulders, and triceps for the second time. So remember that with the push-pull leg split, we're going to be hitting every body part twice per week. Now, in general, I wouldn't recommend doing the exact same workout twice per week. Maybe in the case of hardcore beginners, but that's just because the research that we do have on daily undulating periodization, or DUP, points toward better gains when the reps, sets, and exercises are varied from session to session within the training week. So unlike the last workout, which started with the horizontal bench press, we're going to be kicking things off with a vertical press to emphasize the shoulders first. And so we're doing 4 sets of 6 to 8 reps on the overhead press. You may remember that activation patterns tend to be higher with dumbbell shoulder press variations. However, I prefer to use barbell presses from a pure strength perspective. They allow for easy, steady application of progressive overload. And I think a classic movement like the overhead press will have a large degree of strength and power carryover to other exercises. And here I like to wear a belt to help increase intra-abdominal pressure and improve force transfer, allowing for more overall weight to be lifted, putting more tension on the shoulders. And you'll also want a solid lifting shoe for a nice stable base of support. So as you initiate the press, you want to tuck your glutes in, sort of getting your hips underneath the bar. Then you want to press up and slightly back overhead so that when viewing from the side, the bar should be moving up and down in a pretty much perfectly straight line. So up next is the close grip bench press. And here we're doing 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps. And unlike the previous session, where we were doing a heavy powerlifting style bench press with a wide grip, heavy weights, and a pretty big arch, here we're dropping the weight back and using a more slow and controlled tempo. We're also using a more moderate arch here, allowing for a greater range of motion, which might be valuable from a hypertrophy perspective. Research also shows that using a close grip elicits greater activity of the clavicular, or upper head of the pecs, than a wide grip. So if your upper chest is lagging, consider bringing your grip width in to about shoulder width, at least once a week. Now, if chest is a weak point for you, I'd recommend swapping the order of these first 2 exercises. Personally, I like to alternate priority between chest and shoulders session to session, since I don't really have one lagging behind the other. But as always, you want to prioritize your weak points by hitting them earlier in the workout when you're fresher and stronger. So after that, we're moving on to an incline dumbbell fly for 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps. Now, I'm counting this as an optional exercise just because I don't think you necessarily need a fly here to grow the pecs. Presses should do the trick on their own for the most part, but if your chest is lagging, it might be a good idea to get some extra isolation volume in. And well, if I had to pick just one fly movement, it'd be the cable fly because of the more consistent resistance curve. I have recently rekindled my liking for the dumbbell fly because I find that, unlike with the cables, it's so much easier to feel a weighted stretch here. It's like the dumbbells really stretch the pecs out so much more at the bottom end of the range. So even though the tension is more variable, which might be a drawback, it also has a plus, since stretch is another potentially valuable factor for hypertrophy. And again, this is why combining different exercises with different loading modalities within the training week can be so valuable. Now, while I'd normally recommend a 45-degree incline angle based off EMG data from Krebs et al., which found the best upper pec activation at a 44-degree bench angle, I found it really interesting that a new study published last year found that for dumbbell flies specifically, there was no difference in clavicular or upper pec activation between flat and incline variations. In fact, the flat fly actually had a slight edge even for upper pec activation, and this makes sense when you look at what happened at the anterior delt as you increased the bench angle. As soon as they jacked the incline up, the anterior delts really took over. But for me personally, I still use the incline just because I find that, especially when I point my thumbs toward one another and really squeeze my upper pecs, I can still feel a much stronger mind-muscle connection with my upper pecs doing them this way. And as of this year, the mind-muscle connection has finally started to gain some solid support in the peer-reviewed scientific literature in terms of enhancing muscle hypertrophy. All right, so up next is a superset between the rope upright row and banded lateral raises. And we want to think of both of these movements as side delt exercises. And the main goal here is to just flood the side delts with a bunch of volume in a short period of time through 2 different loading patterns. So up first is the upright row, and I know a lot of people are wary of this exercise because of potential shoulder impingement issues, and this has been acknowledged in the literature as a potential risk. However, the literature also acknowledges that the upright row is perhaps the only open chain multi-joint movement that targets the middle deltoid, making it desirable. And you can mitigate impingement risk by avoiding elevation of the elbows above shoulder height. So basically, try to keep your elbows below your shoulders, and you should be fine. And just like any exercise, if you start to feel pain during or after the movement, you should stop doing it. One thing that I like to do here is think about initiating the row by driving my elbows out. So think about pulling the rope apart instead of just pulling it up. And for me, this really gets my side delts firing and also helps me to think about driving out, so performing shoulder abduction rather than pulling up, which is going to mostly hit the traps and the biceps, which isn't the goal here. Also, research from McAllister and colleagues showed that a wider 2 times shoulder width grip led to more lateral deltoid activation. So while you can't really go that wide with the rope, I think that initiating the movement by pushing out serves to sort of mimic a wider grip and gets you out as wide as you functionally can. So like I said, we're supersetting here with a banded lateral raise, mostly for the sake of time and for generating more metabolic stress. And in my own training and coaching experience, I found that swamping the side delts with a lot of volume is a pretty reliable way to get them to respond well. And as a relatively smaller muscle, they can take quite a beating, so I really don't think you need to worry about overtraining here. And we're using the band here because it gives a different resistance curve than the cables from the last workout, where here you're getting more and more tension as you reach the top end of the range, so you'll feel it getting tougher and tougher near the top. And I like to throw this in mostly for the sake of variety. I do think that the Egyptian or lean away cable lateral raise is optimized from a biomechanical point of view. I also see merit in combining different resistance curves throughout the week for the best development overall. Okay, moving on to the triceps. We're doing only one isolation movement here, so make sure you make it count. And it's gonna be the one arm tricep overhead extension. So last time we did a press down with the arms down at the sides, which is gonna target the lateral or outer head to a larger degree. But the long or inner head actually contributes more to the overall mass and appearance of the triceps muscle. So I think you definitely want to include an overhead movement as well. And again, doing one arm at a time will help prevent left to right imbalances. One thing I like to do here is grip my shoulder with my opposite hand to sort of lock everything in place and prevent me from cheating too much, and really just focus on isolating and squeezing the tricep. And because the triceps will be really active in all the other pushing exercises we've done, I think that one isolation tricep exercise per push day is enough. But if your triceps are really lagging or you're highly advanced, you may want to throw in another movement of your choice for 2 or 3 sets. So to finish out the workout, we're doing an exercise that hits all 3, the chest, shoulders, and triceps. And I like to think of this as a so-called finisher exercise. And so it's the medicine ball push-up, and we're just taking these to an RPE of 8. So once you get to the point where you think you couldn't get another 2 reps, call it off. But week to week, you should find a number to aim for and try to keep adding reps as the weeks go by. And most of you guys, I think, should be getting at least 20 to 30 quality controlled reps here. And apart from this just being a fun and challenging body weight exercise, there is some literature showing that using an unstable base of support during the push-up does increase tricep muscle activity. So there is some science-based justification for including it. So guys, that's going to conclude this workout and the full week of push workouts. I just want to quickly tally up the volume here for both of these workouts. I'll actually put this up here on the screen so you guys can pause and read for more on volume. But in short, this should be, I think, the sweet spot for volume for most intermediate level lifters. More elite level trainees will likely want to add maybe a few sets or even a few exercises. And beginners may want to slash 1 or 2 sets per exercise, especially in the first few weeks when starting out with these workouts. But I think that for most, this should be just about right.